Hi, my name is Noah Gift, and today I'm going to talk about the Swift language from Apple. I'm going to dive into the Playgrounds interface, which is a great way to interactively explore the language. I'm going to go through some of the features and build out a little bit of knowledge for you in just a few minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm in this Playground environment that has a really good interface to learn the language. The first thing I would start out with is declaring variables. So let's go ahead and put a comment here, which is these two backslashes. And if I go here and I say var name is equal to Marco, I do shift return, that gives me the output on the right here. So really nice that it's a little bit like IPython. You go and get this output. The nice thing about var is that I can actually change it. So if I go through here and I say Bob, right, that'll work. But if I go through and I declare an immutable variable, I use let, and I say last, for example, and I go through here and I say polo, that will work, but now I can't change last, right? If I go through here and I say, Bob for that variable, it's going to say, hey, whoa, what's going on? You can't do this, right? And so that's the big takeaway when you're using variables is pick, either a mutable variable or immutable variable. There's a lot to like about immutable variables because of the fact that you can protect things. And this is a common problem in other languages when they have mutable variables. So if I go through here and I say phrases, this is another thing that comes up quite a bit. If I want to, for example, say fruit 1 and I say apple, right? This is nice. I have an immutable variable. I can have another fruit 2, and we'll make this one an orange. That works. And then I can make a snack now, and I can make a phrase. And this is very common, is that you want to go through here and print things out. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say let snack I like to eat in. And now here's where we do string substitution. Is I just need to put in that variable. So we'll go ahead and say fruit 1, right? And this will substitute this, and we'll do the other one. And we'll say fruit 2. Fruits 2. There we go. And now if I do a shift return, what happens? It says, I like to eat an apple and an orange. So now I know how to write phrases. The next thing that's important with a language is to use things like lists and dictionaries or arrays and dictionaries. And so I'm going to go ahead and try those out next. So to build an array, very straightforward, I can say fruits and then put in here whatever I want. And so I'm going to say apple, we'll do orange, and then we'll do a cherry. There we go. So how would I access this? You can access it by indexing. Here we go. Fruits, perfect. And you notice that it accessed the first index of the array. So it starts with 0. Now, what if I want to append things? Very straightforward. I can just do this. I can say fruits.append, and then I can put in another fruit. There we go. And now you can see that it added the pair at the end of the array. Now, what if I want to use a dictionary style? This is also very common. There's a lot to like about dictionaries because of the key value based access pattern. So let's go ahead and make a new one, and we'll say var meal equals, and we'll put a these brackets here, and then inside is where we would put our state. So I would say dinner. And then I could go through here and I say for dinner I'm going to have steak, and then for lunch let's go ahead and have a salad. Let's be healthy. And then for breakfast, what can we do? Well, for breakfast potentially we can have fasting, right? Because we want to practice intermittent fasting. There we go. Now, how do I actually access this? Well, we could do a new variable called dinner, and then I could just say meal and then use that access pattern, right, where I just do the dictionary and then say the key that I want, and then this will give me back the value of steak, right? So very straightforward and similar to other languages like Python. Okay, let's move into control flow. Now, control flow is pretty cool because this allows us to loop through things. This is really a classic kind of problem is a for loop. And so how would we do this? Well, we have that fruit up there earlier, so we could say fruit in fruits. And then what we would want to do is put these square brackets here. And this is where we would put our loop. and we can do a conditional. So we could say if the fruit is equal to an apple, then what I could do is I could actually go here and say, well, that's what I want to eat. So let's go ahead and say print, I love to eat this fruit, which is the loop variable right here. And I'll need to put it into these brackets right here, or parentheses. And then there we go. We got this. Now I just need to do an else statement. We'll say else. And then I can go through here and I can say print, I am okay with eating. And then we'll put in the other fruits that were not matched because they're not the apple. There we go. This looks pretty good. And now we can just double check, maybe move this down a little bit, that we've got everything lined up. All the parentheses line up, perfect. And I do shift return. And you can see that it says at the bottom, I love to eat apple. I'm okay with eating orange. I'm okay with eating cherry. I'm okay with eating pear. So that's really the power of the for loop in action. Now, the last thing I'm going to cover, which is one of my favorite things in any language, is functions, because they take input, they do work, and they return things. Let's go ahead and build out the functions in Swift. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say function, and we'll say Marco Polo. And then I'll say name, and this will allow us to tell this function that it can accept a string. And then this will actually be the return value right here, right? So we'll say string. And then again, I'll just do these curly brackets, and here's where I'd put my logic. So the first thing I'll do is I'll create a var, and we'll say no, right? So this will be the default greeting if they don't pass in the right thing. And then I'm going to say if, though, they pass in the word Marco, which is what I want, then we can go through here and we can actually make the greeting change, right? And so this is the cool thing about the var, right, is I can mutate it, and we can say polo right here. And then all I need to do is, now that I've got this thing done, is I need to put a return statement. And that's what it's telling me. It's saying, look, you need to return something because it's expected that you return a string. Well, we can do that. We can just return back the greeting. And so the greeting in this scenario would give us the ability to run this code. And so let's go ahead and run this. There we go. So now it's complete. It's not going to do anything yet because I haven't invoked it. So in order to invoke it, I'm going to go ahead and say Marco, and we'll say Marco Polo, and then I'll say name. And notice how it's pretty nice. It fills it out for me. So we'll say here Marco, and what happens when we return this? There we go. It returns Polo. What about a not Marco? So we have an imposter here. What happens? Well, we say the same thing. We just do tab complete, and then we can just put Bob in, and what happens? It says no, right? So you can see that very straightforward to just play around and learn the Swift language if you use the Swift playgrounds, and you can actually check out this code yourself inside of my repository, inside of this podcast for Swift I'm developing, called 52 Weeks of Swift. And if you go into the first episode right here and you look at this README file, you can copy the same code that I coded up right here. All right, see you soon.